lot of work in the community, doing presentations, educational type things. And today he's at the Hudson Valley Reptile Expo here in Poughkeepsie, New York. And he's got some little tiny lizards.
Little tiny lizards. Yeah, today our feature animal is the American alligator. This is one of 3 gators that we have in the show. We start with a baby, use this little juvenile right here to talk about all the characteristics for life in the wild.
All right, so
yeah, go ahead, you can touch his back. He's not the friendliest gator, but since it is February, he's a little cooled off, so like most cold-blooded animals, he's a little sleepy today.
Yep.
But in 98-degree weather in July, I probably wouldn't be able to still let you touch him. He does, believe it or not. He hasn't quite learned that we're friends yet. Hopefully he'll get there. We got a bigger alligator that closes the show, Gonzo, and he's got a much better attitude towards people. Yeah, they're amazing. He's got some webbing on the back feet, very little on the front feet, but it's not their feet that let them swim.
It isn't.
When they're in an all-out swimming mode, these legs are tucked tight to their body. That allows them to have a much more streamlined body, and then the tail is their paddle. Their tail is powerful. Okay. It allows them to move through the water quickly with very little energy being expended, making them the efficient predators that they are out in the wild.
So how old is this alligator really?
I say he's 4 or 5 in most of my shows to talk about what a typical alligator would be. But since alligators can go long periods of time without food, especially when the temperatures are cold, it does slow down their growth rate. So he's actually going to be 22 years old this summer. Alligators live as far north as North Carolina. The weather does get cold in North Carolina, therefore influencing their growth rates differently than our typical Everglades or Florida alligators. Okay. So the northern alligators do have a slower growth rate. So he's healthy in every other way. He's just not going to reach 15 feet very quickly.
Now the patterning, I mean, obviously this is for camouflage.
It's camouflage.
It's white on the bottom.
The white on the bottom actually is camouflage too, even if you look at anything like a bird. When you're looking up, it's called counter shading. Yep. So from above, he blends in with the ebony dark swamp. From below, from something like a snapping turtle or a large alligator gar, he looks like the brightness of the sky shining down. So and we'll even notice that on birds when you look up at a tree.
For the most part, going to ambush?
He is a predator. They do stalk, but it's a slow stalking, mostly ambush at the last minute. Not a full-out chase like you're going to get out of a tiger or a cheetah. These are animals that were captive bred. They're used to generations. Oh yeah. Most of them come from alligator farms. Okay. So they are captive bred. If they're not going to be sold later on for meat and skins, some of them make their way into the pet trade. Some states they are legal. I wouldn't advise them as a good pet. It takes a lot of room.
Caught one in our town up north.
Yeah, well, they get big is the problem. With the heat and food, they can grow as big as 6 feet in 3 years.
And they're cheap.
They are, believe it or not, cheap, which makes people want to get them. They look like cute little lizards, but this is what they end up with. Then where are you going to put them? Yeah, exactly. And everybody figures, oh, I'll just give them to a zoo. Zoo likes animals. Alligators, because they're bred and so easily available, zoos don't want them. There's too many. They want things that are unique that other people aren't going to get to see. If you go down the Bronx Zoo, they have exotic species from around the world. Only a couple baby alligators, no big ones.
So to the point where they're really readily available, really cheap, and can you actually get them in New York State?
I can get them because I have the proper license.
So you do require permits?
We do require permits. Each animal is listed individually on a New York State permit. Okay. So even though I have a permit to own the alligators I have, if I need to get another one for any reason, I have to call, have that new animal approved and added before I can go ahead and purchase it. And the DEC does have the right to decline any new animals being added.
It's good that things are being regulated because people think the regulations and things are actually to keep them from doing what they want. But it's really protecting people that are able to do these things.
Exactly. Like I said, you do need to understand alligators in order to work with them in a safe way. 1 minute he looks calm, the next minute he has lunch around and trying to grab me.
It's not like ball python where it's
right. Right. And things have changed in New York State. When I first started this hobby and started doing programs, my Burmese pythons were legal. Rattlesnakes were legal. Those laws have changed as I've been through this hobby for over 25 years. And although I was lucky enough to start without them, you look at the regulations, they're not a bad thing to have. You make a wrong move with a 15-foot berm.
You tend to look at it differently the more you get into it. You're right.
I think a lot of it has to do with age.
Aging experience, right?
I'm older now. I slowed down a little bit.
How many permits do you have for all these animals? Venomous snakes?
I have 3 different permits, and then all the animals are divided depending on what type they are. In New York State, we have an environmental, educational permit for endangered species.
Okay.
And even though alligators were never part of New York, and even though they're no longer federally protected because they're doing so well, New York State still calls them an endangered species.
Just in New York State?
Just in New York State.
Because they existed here at one time?
Never existed in New York, and I'm not sure how they started that permit years ago. I don't argue it because it's a free permit.
Oh, okay.
So we're lucky that way. The venomous snake permit then covers...
Keep track of numbers.
Exactly. Yeah, the venomous snake permit then just covers the venomous snakes.
Is it an overall permit or per species?
It's again per species, per individual animal. Have anything added new, that'll let them know name, type, species.
So you're dealing with, you said timber?
I've got timber rattlers, copperheads. I got 1 gaboon viper, and today's show has an eastern diamondback over 5 feet long.
Wow.
Big diamondback. My collection currently is 59 reptiles, 1 amphibian. And I got 1 Pac-Man frog just for fun. So he's a little guy still growing up, and that's the only amphibian I have right now. I tend to focus mostly on the bigger things because they're easier to show for stage shows. I still like the little guys, but they just don't work out in the big shows.
I know there's so many people out there that are motivated to not just have these animals. They want to be involved in the community and reach out kind of the way you do and things like that.
I can't answer that. I've been asked that so many times.
Just kind of
all I could say is that I've always had a love for animals. When I was 10 years old, Dad bought me an iguana. And then the love grew, catching snakes and turtles when I was out in the wilds of Saugerties where I grew up.
So it went from iguanas to alligators.
Iguanas to alligators and rattlesnakes.
Yeah, so it's the passion.
It was just a passion. It's something I always wanted to be close to and be interactive with. I loved watching shows on TV even before Steve Irwin, Jacques Cousteau, Sliver Sharks, Marlon Perkins from Wild Kingdom. Now I'm really going back, showing my age.
But listen, I know you got to get back. He's got another show going on. Appreciate everything you do.
Well, we thank you for reaching out and including us in your website.
Yeah, no problem. And once again, this is...
We call him Oscar just because as he grew older, he got a little grouchy.
All right, so this is Oscar. Say bye, Oscar.